Respiration is a process that happens in every living cell. It releases energy for the cell's activities. We're going to look at two types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic. You can use my Bioenergetics workbook alongside this video to get the most out of your revision time. It's got tons of tasks and pictures and exam questions to check what you've learned. The link is in the description below, or head over to emmathetici.com. Respiration is an exothermic reaction, which means energy is transferred to the environment, i.e., it is released. This energy supplies all of the energy needed for living processes in organisms, for example, movement, keeping warm, and carrying out chemical reactions to build larger molecules. Note that the keeping warm aspect largely applies to mammals. If we were asked about how a plant uses the energy transferred in respiration, then this wouldn't apply. Instead, we could mention how active transport in the roots requires energy to bring mineral ions against a concentration gradient. That's a good link across topics. To supply enough energy for all of these processes, respiration happens continuously in cells. Aerobic respiration can occur when there's adequate oxygen present, and this happens in the mitochondria of the cell. Here's the word equation for it. Glucose plus oxygen, arrow, carbon dioxide plus water. This equation for aerobic respiration is actually the reverse of the photosynthesis equation, so this might help you remember it. Photosynthesis was also an endothermic reaction, but respiration is exothermic. That's another important difference. Okay, you also need to know the symbols for each of these chemicals, so pause the video and see how many you can remember. Ready? Glucose is C6H12O6, oxygen is O2, carbon dioxide is CO2, and water is H2O. Now we'll look at anaerobic respiration. This occurs in the absence of oxygen, and it can happen in our bodies when the muscles are working very hard, for example, when we're sprinting. Less energy is transferred than in aerobic respiration because the oxidation of glucose is incomplete. This means that the glucose isn't fully broken down, so less energy is released. Here's the word equation for anaerobic respiration in the muscles of animals. Glucose is broken down to give us lactic acid, and a small amount of energy is released. Anaerobic respiration in plant and yeast cells produces different products, so here's the word equation for it. Glucose breaks down to give carbon dioxide plus ethanol. Anaerobic respiration in yeast cells is called fermentation. That's an important word to learn. And this process has economic importance as it's used in the manufacture of alcoholic drinks, for example, beer. This is possible because ethanol is released, which is a type of alcohol. It's also used to make bread, as the CO2 helps the bread rise, and the ethanol just evaporates as the bread is baked. Let's test what you've understood. Pause the video and try these quick questions in your head or in your Studyalong Workbook, and then press play when you're ready to go over the answers. 1. Complete the table by putting a tick or cross in each box to show which type or types of respiration each statement applies to. So first up is produces lactic acid in muscles. That is not aerobic, it is anaerobic. Incomplete oxidation of glucose is also not aerobic, that happens during anaerobic respiration. And an exothermic reaction, well, that one is actually both, as both processes release energy. And just to point out that we are allowed to tick multiple boxes, as it said type or types of respiration. Okay, 2. Write the word equation for aerobic respiration, then write the chemical formula of each substance below it. So on the left, in either order, we've got glucose and oxygen, and on the right is carbon dioxide and water. And C6H12O6 is the symbol for glucose, O2 for oxygen, CO2 for carbon dioxide, and H2O for water. 3. Yeast can respire anaerobically. This process is important in the manufacture of bread and alcoholic drinks. What is another name for this process? That would be fermentation. Okay, how did you do on the questions? Next up, we're learning about how the body responds to exercise. Click here to learn about that, and if you've enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe by hitting the big red button down below. Thanks for watching, bye!